October is over, November is here, and in today's video, we will be doing my October book wrap-up. Hello, my name is Sonnet, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about every single book that I read in the month of October. I read 19-ish books. We'll get there in a second. 19-ish books in the month of October, and I am so happy with how the month went, and I can't wait to talk about some of these books. Now, the month actually started off a little crazy. We started with a DNF, or a did not finish, and that book was Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. Now, I didn't really grow up watching this movie over and over. I've seen it a couple of times, and I think it's good. I like it. But I was very interested in this book, and I couldn't. I got about 50% of the way through this book, and I was finding myself really dreading picking it up. And whenever I'm just like bummed that I have to read, you know that's not a good sign. Then it was starting to get to this point in the book where I was just like, excuse me, no, we're not going to talk about women that way. I couldn't do it anymore. I stopped reading it, and I'm so happy I did because it freed up some time for some other really awesome books. In addition to our DNF, we're starting the month off with a book that I'm actually not counting towards my book count of the month, and that is Edgar Allan Poe stuff. So I didn't count this one because I actually didn't read this whole thing. I was doing the 13 Nights of Poe crochet along, and while I was doing that, I was reading some of my favorite Edgar Allan Poe poems, as well as listening to some of the short stories and things read on YouTube. Spooky season, doing a Poe crochet along, I just couldn't not read some Edgar Allan Poe. But now that those two not counted books are out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the 19 books that I did read. So the very first book that I finished in the month of October was Third Eye by Felicia Day. This is an Audible original, and it is actually like a full cast production of a story that was written by Felicia Day. And oh my goodness, I loved this. When I saw this on Audible, I knew I had to pick it up, so I picked it up the day that it came out, and I had so much fun with it. The cast of this audiobook is fantastic. You have Felicia Day, you have Sean Astin, Will Wheaton, and so many other wonderful and nerdy voice actors and things. And this book is narrated by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman's narration was so perfect. I was laughing. I had such a good time. I gave this one 4 stars. This is the story of Laurel. She is a magical teen and the chosen one, and she is prophesized to defeat the great evil Tybus. So there's this big old huge battle, and Laurel fails. Since Laurel did fail, she is now hated by a lot of the magical creatures and beings and things. And then to get even weirder, a young teenager named Kate comes along, and she's actually a human. So then Laurel has to figure out who this normal human teenager is, how she knows so much about the magical world and everything that happened, and hope to rewrite her fate. So I highly recommend you check this one out. I thought it was really good. The next book I read was Ukulele of Death by E.J. Copperman. So I read a little blurb about this book, and I thought it sounded like the perfect book for me. The Ukulele of Death is the first in a new series of lighthearted, paranormal-tinged mysteries that are filled with offbeat humor, heart, and wry wisdom. So I kind of overlooked a very important aspect of this story when I was reading the synopsis, and I went into this book expecting a very cozy, paranormal, cozy mystery about an ukulele. I love to play the ukulele, and I thought this sounded wonderful. This is the story of Fran and Ken Stein. They are 2 siblings, and they run a private investigator service, and they help people find their lost parents. Fran and Ken themselves lost their parents when they were babies, so they really like to help people find their parents. Then a client comes to Fran and asks her for her help to find her father, and everything kind of surrounds this rare ukulele that her father was searching for. Again, I read this thinking it was a paranormal, cozy mystery, and that is not what this book is for me. I gave this book 3 stars. I thought it was fine, but I would remove the word paranormal from this completely. This is more of a science fiction mystery. I wouldn't even call it a cozy mystery. It is a science fiction mystery. The mystery is very interesting and everything around the ukulele is kind of interesting as well. I thought the story was fine. I thought the characters of Fran and Ken were really interesting and I thought the writing was very good. But at the end of the day, it just was not a book that I was expecting. Maybe it's my fault for not reading the synopsis more carefully. I do like to go into books not knowing everything though, so I don't know. I saw the words lighthearted and paranormal mystery and I was in for something that this book wasn't. So the next book on my list is another Audible audiobook that I listened to, and that is What the Hex by Alexis Daria. I loved this book. Oh my gosh, I gave this one 4 stars. This was such a happy surprise for me. This one is definitely more of a novella. It is very short. So this is the story of this magical island called Isla Bruja, right by Miami, and it is the home to some of the most powerful and rich Latinx witch families. The story follows Kat, who's actually moved away to be a fashion designer, but she is coming back to the island because her sister is getting married and she needs to be there for the wedding. She then discovers that her future brother-in-law is actually possessed by a demon, so Kat must join forces with her old high school nemesis Diego to kind of defeat this demon and everything that's going on. Well, what do you know? Kat and Diego, they start to fall for each other and then things get a little steamy and I loved this. I thought it was so cute. It was the perfect like paranormal witchy romance. The spice in this book was fantastic. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too unbelievable for me. And the little like spicy jokes that they tell each other because they're witches. And so they were telling each other these little spicy witch jokes. I thought they were so funny. I loved it. 4 stars. Highly recommend this one. The next book I read was a graphic novel called Beetle and the Hollowbones by Aliza Layne. I loved this graphic novel. I gave this one 4 stars. This one follows the story of Beetle. She is a goblin witch and she has this little blob ghost friend that's stuck in a mall. For some reason, blob ghost or BG isn't allowed to leave the mall. Then Beetle's old best friend Kat comes back into town, and then you learn that Kat's not so nice aunt is actually going to tear down the mall in a couple of days. So Kat, Beetle, and Blob Ghost try to figure out what's holding Blob Ghost to this mall, how are they going to free him, and how are they going to do all of this before the mall is torn down and Blob Ghost is lost forever. I loved this story. I thought this story was so sweet. It was so fun. It was perfect for spooky time. I thought the message behind this one was really good too, kind of standing up for what you believe in, standing up for who you are. I thought it was really good. I thought it was very powerful. And this is probably one that I will read again. The next book that I read is In the Company of Witches by Auralee Wallace. This one is definitely a cozy mystery. Phew, we got a good cozy mystery in there. I'm not going to get too deep into the plot. You have Bryn, who is a young witch, and she lives with her 2 aunts who are also witches. They run a B&B, and then something happens to someone in the B&B, and they need to solve the mystery. What I really liked about this one is this one deals a lot with grief in a really beautiful way, and we have one for the cryometer. I wasn't sobbing in this one, but there was definitely a couple of tears. Bryn is grieving, and this grief has caused her magic to go away because of something awful that happened to her husband, and it was really emotional, and I really enjoyed it. This was the perfect cozy mystery that I was looking for at spooky time, and I didn't expect it to hit me in the feels, but it did. There are more books in this series, so I am interested in kind of revisiting this world and this B&B, but yeah, I did enjoy this one. The next book I read was Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge. I read this book last year. This book was on my October TBR. I like this book a lot. I gave this one 4 stars. I feel like the reviews on this one are really hit or miss. I think you would either really enjoy this book or you would not enjoy this book. This is the story of a small town, I believe it's 1960s, kind of Midwest America, and every Halloween The young boys are kept in their rooms for like 5 days. There's no food, no water, and then they are sent out onto the streets to battle the October Boy, or Sawtooth Jack, which you can guess who Sawtooth Jack is based off of the cover here. This book has such wonderful kind of Halloween vibes. That's why I read it last year. That's why I reread it this year. But the story is actually really dark. It gets really heavy. This is definitely one of the heaviest, darkest, more violent books that I personally will read. Anything that gets more violent than this is a no-go for me. But for Halloween time, this one is perfect. And I do enjoy this one. They just came out with a movie and it had a lot of like delays to it. So I'm interested to see what maybe caused all those delays. I haven't seen the movie yet. I am worried it's a little violent for me to watch, but I am kind of interested. But yeah, Dark Harvest, not much more to say. It's Halloween time. Perfect Halloween book. The next book I read is Aster and the Accidental Magic. This is a graphic novel by Thom, Pico, and Karen Zach. I read this book actually while I was getting a new tattoo, and so, you know, it was fun. It was okay. I gave it 3 stars. This graphic novel is very bizarre. There was a lot of things going on. Angry migrating birds, djinn-like characters, an evil autumn fox. I couldn't give you the synopsis because it's all over the place. Aster basically learns to appreciate where she is and the mountains and all that good stuff. Again, not much more to say about this one. 3 stars. It was fine. The next book I read was Dewdrop by Kay O'Neill. I love Kay O'Neill. I love the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels, and so I was really excited to pick this one, especially because it is a children's one. It was really short, it was really sweet, and the artwork is just gorgeous. This is the story of Dewdrop, a young axolotl who enjoys naps and cheerleading and things, and a big sports fair is coming up. And so again, this one is very short. It's essentially the story of Dewdrop going to see all of her other animal friends who are trying really hard to be the absolute best at whatever sport they are participating in for this fair. And Dewdrop basically just reminds all of her friends how wonderful they are regardless of if they win or not, and how strong and perfect they are just the way they are. It is so sweet. It is so cute. If you have young children in your life, or if you're like me and you like to just enjoy, you know, a children's graphic novel here and there, definitely check out Dewdrop by Kay O'Neill. It is so sweet. It is so cute. And it's really uplifting. The next book I read is The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw. I got this for like 25 cents at a garage sale, and it is an ARC copy, which I thought was really cool. Now here's the thing. I bought this in like June or July, and I was saving this for Halloween because I was like, a story about witches? Yeah, perfect for Halloween time. However, this entire book takes place in the month of June, so it has like the perfect summer vibes to it. So I kind of wish I would have read it then, but now I know. This is the story of Penny, and she lives in a very coastal town. I believe it's in Oregon. And 200 years ago, 3 local witches were buried at sea because of, you know, witch hunts and things. And every year they come back and they possess 3 of the town girls, and then they start to lure the town's boys to their watery demise. I actually didn't have high expectations for this book, but I really enjoyed this one. I gave this 3.75 stars. I think the atmosphere in this book is fantastic. If you want a witchy book that takes place in summertime, it's the Pacific Northwest, so it's cold and misty. Ooh, cold. It was really interesting. So come summertime, if you're looking for a really atmospheric, spooky read, definitely pick up Wicked Deep. Okay, so the next chunk of books that I read are all graphic novels. This was the weekend before Halloween, and it was snowing, and I didn't have any plans, so I stayed home, and all day long on the snowy Saturday before Halloween, I just read graphic novels. So we're going to get into a ton of those, and There's some really good ones. The first one I read is Out There by Seaerra Miller. I saw this one on my Kindle and it looked really interesting. The aliens and everything. I thought it was cool for Halloween. So I decided to pick this one up. I gave this one 3.75 stars. I thought this one was really good. I enjoyed it. This is a children's graphic novel about a teen girl named Julia. She goes on a road trip with her dad from Colorado to New Mexico to visit Roswell. Julia's dad believes that he was abducted by aliens in the past, and so that's why him and her are going down to the festival that happens in Roswell every year, and they learn the truth or the not truth about what really happened that night with her dad, and you learn about supporting the ones you love and accepting the ones you love for who they are. This book was really sweet. To be honest, this one made me kind of sad. It is a very heartfelt story, but Julia's dad and her mom are recently divorced, and everything that's going on with her dad and her mom, I don't know why, I just really felt so bad for that whole situation. I don't know, it was really kind of heartbreaking for me to see. And then to see Julia start to really question, does she believe her dad was abducted? You start questioning, was he? Are we going to get answers? The story did wrap up very sweet. Again, it's that kind of a theme of accepting people for who they are. It's kind of also about finding found family. You know, some people might not understand certain things, but you will find people that do, and those are the people you want to surround yourself with. And I think that is really beautiful. I also really loved all the New Mexico things. As someone who lives in Colorado and just recently went on a road trip, down to New Mexico, I was like, yeah, I like it. I really enjoy New Mexico. I think New Mexico is so interesting. Very, very cool state. I thought the artwork was fantastic. It was really good, and I will probably be picking more up from this author, but yeah, I did enjoy this one. The next book I read is Ghost by Raina Telgemeier. I got this book at the thrift store. I do actually have a haul where I talk about this one, and I was actually going to read this book for my Summerween TBR, but I ended up not getting around to it, and so I saved it for October, and I am so glad I did. This was the perfect book to read right before Halloween, and especially right before Dia de los Muertos. Let's add one to the cryometer. Not just a tear. I was sobbing in this book. Oh my gosh, did this book make me cry. This is the story of Kat and her family. They move up the coast of California to Northern California to Bahia de la Luna, and this town is obsessed with their ghosts. They actually moved because Kat's young sister here, Maya, has cystic fibrosis, and so the cool, salty air of Bahia de la Luna is going to be very beneficial for Maya. I loved the theme of this book of breathing and breath and all of it. Oh, it was just so good. If you are looking for the perfect kind of Halloween, but especially Dia de los Muertos read, pick up Ghost. I love Raina Telgemeier's things. This is not the first one that I have read. I think all of her stuff is fantastic, and the more and more I see, the more and more I will read. 5 stars, absolutely 100% recommend Ghosts. The next book is one that I've actually talked about before, and that is Nightlights by Lorena Alvarez. This is my 3rd time reading this one this year. I love this graphic novel. I think the artwork of this graphic novel is fantastic. I think it is so gorgeous. And the more I read it, actually the more and more I really enjoy this story. This is the story of Sandy. She is a young girl who loves to do artwork. She then meets a mysterious and sinister friend named Morphe, who is obsessed with her artwork and needs more and more of it. It gets to be a little spooky and things. I really like the theme of this one. The meanings behind her stories are so layered and deep, and I think it's really, really interesting. And again, the artwork is some of my all-time favorite spreads and things. I think this is so beautiful. I also picked up Hicotea, a Nightlights story as well from Lorena Alvarez. This story also follows Sandy, and this time she goes on a field trip with her school to the wetlands. And this one, I didn't like this one as much as Nightlights. I gave this one 3.75 stars. I think the artwork again is absolutely breathtaking, absolutely gorgeous. And this one, the themes behind this one get very deep. They're very layered, and it has quite the message in it. And I think everyone can get a different message from this story. It is very interesting. I do recommend this one as well, just because I think Lorena Alvarez is a fantastic storyteller, and I think the artwork is wonderful. So my house is getting some like roof work done and things. So if you hear some random bangs and things, that's what's going on. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Moving on. The next graphic novel that I read on this snowy Saturday was another one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, I love this one. This is my second time this year reading this one, and that is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. I don't think you can get any more autumnal or Halloween-y than this graphic novel. It is so good. Oh my gosh, 5 stars. It is fantastic. This follows the story of Josiah and Deja, and they work at the pumpkin patch, and this is their last year working at the pumpkin patch, and they have formed such a wonderful friendship over the past few years that they have worked at this pumpkin patch. And so they decide to have quite the adventure on their last night. Josiah has a crush on a gal that works at the fudge shop. So Deja here plans this big old huge elaborate scheme to get Josiah to talk to her. And oh my gosh, it is so funny. I laugh so much while I read this one. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Any time of the year, if you're ready for autumnal vibes or anything like that, pick up Pumpkinheads. You will not regret it. The next and last graphic novel that I read on this snowy Saturday was Misfit Mansion by Kay DeVault. I bought this one a couple of months ago. I thought the artwork was phenomenal. I mean, just look at that cover. That cover is perfect. This is the story of Iris. She is a monster that lives in a mansion with other monster type creatures. And this home for monstrous creatures is run by Mr. Holloway. But all of the monsters that live in this house actually are not allowed to leave, and no one's allowed to come in. And then, craziness ensues. You find out secrets. They're trying to fit in because it's Halloween time and they're afraid that people aren't going to accept them for who they are. It was really cute. I picked this one up because looking at it and reading the synopsis, I felt like it kind of had a House by the Cerulean Sea type of feel to it. And I would definitely say that is accurate. You have all these monstrous mythical creatures that live together in a house, and, they're being protected from, normal people and things like that. It definitely does have those feels to it. I gave this one a 4.75 stars. I loved it. It is not quite perfect for me, but it is almost there. This is one that I will be reading time and time again. This is one that I could actually see reading to my kiddo relatively soon, and I think the character designs are fantastic. Again, the artwork is so good. I will definitely be picking up more things from Kay DeVault, and I highly recommend you pick this one up too. The next book I read is Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. This is the story of Emmy, and she was a witch and then moves away to Chicago because she had her heart broken by another witch who lives in the same city that she did, and she returns back a number of years later. There's basically a witchy gauntlet that kind of happens, and she has to return because her family is historically the arbiters of these kind of tournaments that happen. She's not happy to return. She does not want to confront Gareth, who broke her heart. When she meets him in the bar, he doesn't even recognize who she is, and it's a whole thing. Her heart is still broken. Then Emmy forms a pact with her old best friend Lyndon, as well as an old acquaintance Talia, to basically help Gareth not win in these tournaments. This one is a really fun, steamy LGBTQ romance. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I do see myself reading more from this author in the future. And again, it was the perfect read for Halloween time. Next up, we have The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. I like to read a classic book every month, and well, this is The Halloween Tree. And it's Ray Bradbury. So I really like this one. 3.75 stars. I love Ray Bradbury's writing. Let me just say this though, his writing is not for everyone. This is the perfect Halloween book. It follows a group of young boys on Halloween night, and they must travel through time with a mysterious man named Moundshroud to find their lost friend Pip. Again, they travel through time and they experience things that have influenced modern day Halloween rituals and things like that. Egypt, they experience like witchy ceremonies. They go to Mexico for Dia de los Muertos, all kinds of things. It is really interesting, perfect for Halloween. Next up, we have The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. Another classic. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This was first published in 1820, so keep that in mind when you are reading it. But the atmosphere and the descriptions in this book are so wonderful and perfectly perfect for Halloween. You know the story. Whether you've watched the movie with Johnny Depp, which is not one of my favorites, or you grew up watching the Disney short, which is definitely a favorite of mine. This is the story of Ichabod Crane, a schoolmaster, and he is very interested in the town beauty, Katrina Van Tassel. I'm not going to get more into the story. You know what happens. There's a headless horseman, then Ichabod Crane mysteriously disappears, and we don't know what happened, but it's the headless horseman, right? This one is perfect for Halloween. Really fast, really simple, very atmospheric, very Halloween-y, so yeah. The last book that I read is The Battle for the Pumpkin King. Now, this is actually by a lot of people. The story is by Sean McLaughlin, DJ Milky, written by Dan Connor, pencils and inks by Deborah Allo, and then colors by Roberto Scalia. You guys know I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I love Oogie Boogie. It was Halloween. I found this one for a really good price at Target, and I decided to pick it up. This is the story of how Jack Skellington competed with Oogie Boogie to become the Pumpkin King. You learned that they were best friends, and then this battle that they did to earn the title of Pumpkin King is actually what caused the rift in their friendship and actually caused Oogie Boogie to kind of become who he is. Now, can I be honest? I typically don't like origin stories of villains. Maleficent, The Wicked Witch of the West, Cruella, Oogie Boogie. I don't need the background. I don't need to know how they became villainous. And I prefer that they're just like villains. But I did like this one. I think the artwork is gorgeous. I think it's very cool. That was the last one. I read this one after everyone was done trick-or-treating. All of the lights were out. The pumpkins were still glowing though, because you can't blow out your pumpkin. You got to keep your pumpkin lit, right? But yeah, that was the last one that I read on Halloween night. Then I closed my book. I went to bed and Halloween was over. But that is our wrap up for October. Oh my goodness. It was a very good month full of some great books, amazing spooky Halloween graphic novels that I will be reading again and again, and some great Halloween classics that I was really happy to pick up. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. I love you so much. We did hit 500 subscribers, which I think is fantastic. Thank you everybody for subscribing. Thank you if you watched this video. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart. I think you are wonderful. You inspire me every day. I love to talk about things that I'm so passionate about, and so I really appreciate that you like to listen to it. So anyways, that's all I have to say. I'll see you next time. Bye.